what's up everybody? Hope you're having a great day. My name is Jay and you're watching Clouded Reactions. So welcome if you're new to the channel and welcome back if you're a little seasoned veteran. Also, just want to give you guys a quick happy Mother's Day. Hopefully you guys' mothers are still around to give her a quick I love you for today. Even though this video is probably going to be uploaded tomorrow because of all the editing and such, but I can still wish y'all a happy Mother's Day. So we just got done listening to the English and Swedish version of the Carolians prayer. And I just clicked on the history video and it says soldiers of the Swedish king. So I guess I was kind of right when I said that the name Carolean was kind of probably a broad name for just the army, the name of the army. I was kind of confused. I don't know if it was like an elite unit or the bodyguards, but the title, at least to me, is saying that it's just referencing the whole army. I don't know. I'm assuming it's going to be Carolus Rex because of Carolean. So the names are kind of similar. And in my past video, I actually said I wasn't sure what this battle was referencing. I just know that they're just maybe describing just the feel of the army and how they're able to dominate so quickly and so powerfully through their faith. But let's find out what the history is behind the song. Shut up, Jay. Let's hop right on in.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Joachim from Sabaton. And this is Sabaton history.
The soldiers of the Swedish kings, the Carolians, were the elite soldiers of Europe in their day, winning great battles, even outnumbered with their innovative and superior tactics.
But their discipline, morale, and religious convictions were equally important. And that's what our song Carolian's Prayer is about.
Now, Joachim is going to tell you a little bit about the song in a minute, but first, I'm going to tell you the history. In the 17th century, most European armies consisted of three types of soldiers. The levies, who were usually conscripted or otherwise locally raised men. The mercenaries, who were often experienced but expensive soldiers for hire. And guards units, who were the elite household units of the state, high in talent, small in numbers. The Swedish Carolean soldiers were something in between. After the rather disappointing performance of the Swedish military in the Scandinavian War, which ended in 1679, in which they fought against Danish, Norwegian, and German armies, who they had thought to be their inferior, King Carl XI began reorganizing and modernizing the Swedish army in the 1680s. He developed a new allotment system where each Swedish province had to raise and equip a standing force of around 1,000 men in both war and peace times. Those men were professional soldiers who, in return for being given their uniforms, weapons, and plots of land to support their families, had a lifelong commitment to king and country until they were released from service, or they died, whichever came first. Sweden, or the Swedish Empire, or just the Kingdom of Sweden, had never been able to maintain a standing army for long because of a lack of manpower and resources. Even at the height of its power, Sweden could not compete with other more populous European powers in terms of numbers and replenishment. So instead of quantity, they had to rely on quality. The Carolians, as they were now called after their king, enjoyed the best training and quality of equipment the empire could provide. This emphasized modern flintlock muskets and strict drills in marching and firing, performed with live ammunition. Special emphasis was put on close combat training with rapiers, bayonets, and pikes. Now, bayonets were actually a rather new thing, so most of the musketeers were trained in fencing with rapiers. Since the Carolians were now professional soldiers, they began to develop a certain feeling of uniqueness within Swedish society. The community was paying for their living, and in return, they were expected to fight and to die for the crown. But it went beyond that. Officers and veterans defined themselves as krigare, meaning warrior, and associated the word with a sense of pride in duty and merit. It wasn't just about the oath to the king or the regiment, nor the time they spent training, nor even their competence in leadership. The true test of the warrior was his baptism of fire during a real battle. Scars from wounds were shown proudly since they symbolized the blood shed for their king. And at the end of a Carolean's life, scars they bore were the only proof of the hardships they had endured on the battlefield. And of course, their comrades who were also present at the battles experienced the same pain, fear, glory, anger, and joy.
I don't know why, so real quick, I just drew a real quick comparison between them and Spartan warriors. How they didn't really care about fighting for money or fighting for the king. They're more just proud of their country and fighting for their country to preserve their nation. And I think that's, I don't know, one of you guys said that there's a song from Sabaton covering the Spartans, and I gotta give that a hear. Of course, after the Carolus Rex album. Yeah, let's just keep going. So these soldiers were in between elite soldiers and conscripts, which are homegrown, kind of like militia, I would describe it. And then mercenaries, everybody knows mercenaries are, they're just people who are just paid to fight for you. And often, if your enemy has got a bigger pocket, bigger monies, that mercenary could flip on you. So it's not, I don't know, probably wouldn't be ideal to hire like a whole army of mercenaries. Like I said, it'll be way too expensive anyways. So the Caroleans are a mix between homegrown militia or conscripts and elite soldiers, but they're few in number. So they're kind of in between. Okay.
And society would never really understand it in the same way.
Morale and discipline unites them. A common faith to keep them strong. Always on their way to heaven. In the name of Christ, their enemies chastise.
Now, this feeling was true more or less for every soldier everywhere, but the Caroleans dealt with it in a different way. They had a certain camaraderie that was absent in the larger European armies, which was great for morale. But besides the strong camaraderie, they held strongly and even fatalistically to the Christian faith. Chaplains were common in European armies, but for the Caroleans, they were omnipresent. In the way battles were fought at the time, with lines of tightly packed soldiers marching towards and then shooting at each other, it was difficult to explain why one soldier died and the man next to him lived. The strong faith of the Caroleans convinced them that every death on the battlefield was simply according to God's will. Death did not come to them because they failed or made a poor decision or simply because of bad luck, but because death was already predetermined before the battle. God had already decided it, so worrying about whether you would survive a battle was pointless.
So that ties into, I don't know if it was the English or Swedish version. They had said something about what? They're marching forward. God had already judged, or God had judged them already. Something like that. So I guess that ties into what they just said right now. Man, so they wrote the lyrics that's amazing. Because I thought these were just, I know whenever Sabaton writes a lyric, it's supposed to mean something. But sometimes you can just read a lyric and it just sounds like they're just describing, trying to give you a picture of what's going on. But really they're saying God had already judged them, so they're fearless when walking. Because like he just said right now, doesn't matter, you shouldn't fret over it, because whoever's going to die is going to die. There's nothing you can do about it. God had already judged them. This one's going to die, this one's going to live. It's been predetermined, so it doesn't matter. So, man, Sabaton's got away with lyrics and attention to detail. They didn't, man, that's Sabaton, man.
All this did not make the Caroleans completely fearless or some sort of religious warrior fanatics, but it was a way of dealing with the stress of battle. And this strong Christian belief, in combination with the strict discipline of the drills, made the Caroleans highly motivated soldiers. If you take a look at how the Caroleans actually fought, you understand why a certain fatalism was necessary. As I said before, the Swedish forces had to rely on quality over quantity. This had to really translate on the battlefield itself. Long engagements with high casualties were unacceptable, and Sweden could not fight wars of attrition. Instead, they had to defeat their enemies quickly and decisively. Regular battle combat was fought in line formations, where soldiers closed ranks to maximize the amount of firepower they could unleash on the enemy, so both sides would, as I said, march their infantry towards the other and then stop and open fire at a distance of around 100 meters. They would then reload and continue to fire. Artillery and cavalry were used to disrupt and break these infantry formations and exploit breakthroughs. But that could lead to long and costly engagements, the sort the Swedes were trying to avoid. So they had to beat this whole system. The Carolean musketeers would set up 4 ranks deep as they marched toward the enemy. But instead of halting to fire at the usual 100-meter mark, they continued marching. The enemy, of course, would not and opened fire upon them, but the Caroleans marched on. Muskets were notoriously inaccurate, but many men still fell from enemy fire. Despite the shock and despite the casualties, they marched on until they were around 50 meters away from the enemy. The saying, "Do not fire until you see the whites of their eyes," did not come from this practice, but it might as well have. The volley of gunfire from the first two ranks at such close range was far more accurate and far more effective than the enemy's, both physically and psychologically. But after the first two ranks had fired, they still did not stop or reload, but kept on marching.
To battle facing the fire, Lord, they will be done. Into battle, walking the light, see the light in their eyes, Carolians are marching on.
Instead of reloading, those first two ranks drew their rapiers and changed positions with the third and fourth ranks. Then they closed in on the enemy to around 20 meters, and now those ranks opened fire as well. At this close range, most bullets would easily find their targets and completely disrupt the enemy's ranks. And the Caroleans kept on coming. They did not stop to reload, but charged with cold steel, bayonets and sabers raised, into the enemy. Modern military historians support the thesis that although all armies had begun slowly equipping their soldiers with some sort of bayonet or bayonet-like weapon, actual charges were thought of as a thing of the past by most military thinkers at the time. Thus, the Carolians, specially trained in close combat, crashed into disrupted, unstable, and frightened formations. The tactic was simply called gå på, which translates to walk on or march on. All it was swiftly marching through the enemy's fire to close with him. It was a very dangerous tactic and relied decisively and exclusively on personal bravery and aggressiveness. But done correctly, it could absolutely terrify the enemy and lead to a swift victory with minimal casualties. When you think about it, it arguably made the Caroleans the first modern shock troops. Breakthroughs would then be exploited by Carolean cavalry, who, in the same spirit as the infantry, rode very close, often knee to knee, to maximize their effect.
Hold on, real quick. They said it led to minimal losses. How is that? Like, I can understand. So usually they stop at the 100-meter line and they fire. The Caroleans, they march all the way to the 50-yard line. I don't know why it sounds like football, but they march to the 50 yards distance from the enemy troop, and the first two would fire. Now, of course, their shots are going to be more precise from the 100 meters. But then after the first two ranks fire, they keep marching to the 20th mark, 20 meters away. Then the second ones shoot without reloading. So I can understand how being that close, they're going to be more accurate. But how does that minimize losses? Because as they get closer and the enemy is just standing still, as the Caroleans march on, they're getting closer to the enemies who are getting a better, clearer, accurate shot as well. So I don't see how that can minimize losses. If anything, it'll kind of increase it, but it'll also increase the kill rate for the Caroleans. Because one, since they keep marching, they don't stop and take time to reload. But at the same time, they're getting shot at a closer distance because they're closing the gap between themselves and the enemy. I don't know if you guys can explain that one to me. I just don't see how it minimizes losses. That's what I'm trying to figure out. And then, like I said, after the 20 meters, they keep running. They don't reload, and that's when they said that they started charging. So I just don't understand how it minimizes the losses. I can definitely see how it increases the kill rate, clearly, because as they get closer, the shots become more accurate. But so does the enemies. That's why I'm confused.
On smashing the enemy's formations. In many ways, the Caroleans were unique, and actually pulling off said gå på tactic was only possible through the strict discipline, the high morale, and the unique motivation of the Swedish soldiers at the time. The Great Northern War of 1700 to 1721 showcased the effectiveness of such tactics in battle after battle against numerically superior foes. But we'll talk more about this in the other episodes about the other songs from Sabaton's Carolus Rex album, a concept album about this period in Swedish history. Suffice it to say for now that as long as the Swedish army could avoid mistakes on an operational level, it was extremely tough to beat on a tactical level, and doing so would, in any case, require a huge loss of life from those foolish enough to try.
Now, the actual writing process for this song was a bit different from how you write most of the other Sabaton songs, yeah?
Yes, normally we do the music first and the lyrics comes later, since there's a lot of research to do for us usually.
Fair enough.
In this case, however, already as I was writing the song, the words "Tills han vitögat ser, Carolinen marscherar fram," which is basically almost what we sing in the lyrics. And it's, see the white in their eyes, Carolians are marching on.
But I like that you said it in Swedish, because this song you can get in Swedish and in English.
Yes.
You have it in both. Now, why did you do that?
Well, we've had requests over the years that we should maybe do something in Swedish at some point, and we thought, yeah, but it didn't make sense for us to sing in Swedish if it wasn't about Swedish
About
history.
World War II.
Yeah. You know, Swedish people are decent at English at least, and no matter how good we think we are, it's still a second language. Writing the lyrics for this album was so much easier in Swedish, and also singing. You know, when you're singing, it's not only about hitting the notes, but also getting the vibe and the feel in there.
A lot of people miss that.
Yeah, and it's bizarre that I needed less than half of the retakes that I normally do when I was singing in Swedish.
But now this song, it has the choir, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's one of my favorite moments, actually, of recording ever. I don't know, for those of you who record music, sometimes things just turn out as good or better than you could even dare to hope. And this was one of those moments. And I'm standing there listening to the choirs being made as I'm singing "Tills han vitögat ser, Carolinen marscherar fram. La sitt liv i Guds hand för sin konung och fosterland. Put their lives in God's hand for the kingdom and fatherland." And when I hear those words in Swedish with the choir and I'm singing it at the same time, I had to stop the takes because I was almost shaking, you know, and I got goosebumps already thinking about it. You know?
How many layers of chorus and choir were there?
Well, it's triple harmony. Usually we record male choirs, so it's like 3 to 5 guys who go in and sing the bottom harmony, the middle, and the top harmony. And the top harmony is usually where I'm singing as well, or joining in. And then we do the same for female choirs. So it's quite a lot of takes because we usually dub them as well. So we get them in stereo, so we go left and right.
Oh, that's cool. And let's hear some of that.
I love that.
Well, that was fascinating. Thank you very much, Joachim. Carolian's Prayer is on Carolus Rex.
And that's it for today.
But we will see you next time right here on Sabaton History.
All right, everyone, that's it for today. Remember to subscribe to Sabaton History, the regular Sabaton channel, but also remember to check out Time Ghost and World War II. If you want to see more videos like this, there's a playlist, cool stuff, you want to see it. And also there's a chance for you to get a special edition of our upcoming album, The Great War. If you go and join us on Patreon. So do that, and do that now. Bye-bye.
Is the Great War already out? Doesn't matter. I have so many videos I gotta go through first, so many songs before I get to their latest. I don't want to just jump on their latest album. I kind of want to go back to their roots. I want to go back to their first album and give that a listen to. I don't know the name of it. I just know that somebody told me that, you know, they've been around since the 90s. So there's a whole bunch that I missed so far. But anyways, I'm going to go listen to the live version. I hope you guys join me over there. I'm only cutting this short because I'm running out of time. I got limited space on my phone. I would like to talk more about this. I might bleed it into the next video, which is the live version. I don't know if it's in English or in Swedish, but I hope to see you guys there. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Enjoy your Mother's Day. Stay blessed. Wash your hands. Stay clean. Be respectful. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.